Y'all, that's so good. That's so good. That is the easiest way to get birria on the table extra fast. I'm gonna show you the fastest way you can have birria tacos even on a weeknight. This is a shortcut but super delicious version of birria. I have some chuck roast here. I cut up into little segments so I could sear them. Just gonna do a little salt and pepper on each side. You don't need much. I just like a little seasoning when I get things seared up. But using the Instant Pot cuts the time, not even in half, in fractions. This is gonna take about an hour to cook. Traditional birria slow braises for up to 8 hours, sometimes even longer, or roast in the oven in a pot for a super long time. This is just a time-saving shortcut version that you can make any night of the week in your Instant Pot or pressure cooker. Seasoned up on both sides. So I have this preheated. What I love about Instant Pots and many of these modern pressure cookers is that they have a sear or saute function. So you can do everything in one pot. If you don't have that function in yours, what you'll want to do is just get a cast iron skillet, a good quality pan, sear it on all sides in that pan, and then you can transfer it in. The vessel of a slow cooker is a little small, so you may want to do this in batches. You don't want the meat to sweat. You really want it to get good browning on all sides. I have a little bit of oil to get things started, but there's a lot of fat on that beef that'll render down. So you don't want to start with a lot of oil. Want to render out some of that fat, get things nice and brown and crispy, get it nice and seared up. Oh, we got beef searing in a pot. We got beef searing in a pot. Got beef getting brown in my skillet. It's not really a skillet, but all right. We're rolling? Oh. Now we're cooking. Oh, look at that brown. Look at that char, that caramelization. If you want to be fancy, look at that Maillard reaction. We want to hit all sides. This smells incredible. If I could just eat this smell, which I will, I just have to wait about an hour. Delicious smelling. And all the brown bits on the bottom are gonna cook up once we add the liquid and get the lid on and build that pressure. It's gonna be so good. Now, this may not seem like a lot of ingredients for birria. Traditionally, birria involves a lot of ingredients, a lot of process and technique. It's a labor-intensive meal. That's why it's so delicious and so tender and juicy. But the shortcuts we're taking are gonna give you those same results, just with a little easy button. This is my birria mix. I made this ahead of time. It has ground chilies in it, cumin. It's got bay leaf, a little bit of clove and cinnamon in there. Everything you need, all those traditional flavors you would get in birria are in this jar, concentrated, ready to go, right into the Instant Pot. The only work you really have to do is the searing step, which I feel like crucial. Yes, you could just throw the beef in there, add your liquid, and get it going, but the searing will help develop flavor. It'll help the meat cook a little bit better. You could even cut this up and sear them in smaller pieces, especially if you're using a pressure cooker. You might want to do smaller pieces. It'll help it break down a lot quicker, get all shredded up and juicy. I just did a couple small chunks. Now, this recipe is good for about a 3-pound chuck roast. This is about 2.5 pounds. So you could go up to 3 pounds if you want a little bit more. I've seen variations of this recipe that uses a little bit of short rib in addition to this, or just short rib entirely. I love short ribs. So I feel like the best version of this would be a little bit of short rib mixed together with this. Oop, I got a blonde spot. Try to make sure every side is seared. See a little rare spot right there? Just rotate it so it can sear on that side. If you're not cooking it through, you just want the outside nice and dark and brown. Pretty much look exactly like that. The Instant Pot, I'm sure many of you have one just sitting in a pantry. Used to be all the rage, all the craze. Now everybody wants to just air fry, so we're gonna bring back the Instant Pot. Make delicious stewed braised meals in the Instant Pot. Oh, see? Got a naked spot there. We're gonna just hit that real quick and assemble the rest of this. So traditional birria is a lot of process, a lot of ingredients. This jar contains all those flavors, just in a simple, easier form. Now there's onion powder, garlic powder in here. Even in this version, you could dice up an onion, throw it in, cut a few garlic cloves in there, but I have everything in here, so we're good to go. Right before your meat's done searing, I'm gonna take some tomato paste. Squeeze that in. The traditional recipe usually involves stewing some tomatoes or roasting them or charring them and then blending them up, putting them in here. Some tomato paste is gonna give us that concentrated flavor without a lot of steps. So what I do is I smear that tomato paste on one side and then flip it over. You wanna cook that tomato paste in just a little bit. Get that raw tomato paste flavor out, get that caramelized up a little bit. So I'll just flip it down to that side, let it go for just a minute or two. And then now's the fun part. It's easy to go. It's a one-stop, one-pour recipe. Easy as that. Everything's pre-measured, ready to go. You can meal prep and do this for a weeknight or busy weekends. I always say like, oh, you know, you have busy weeks, work week, school, you know, whatever. You need an easy meal. People are busy on Saturday and Sunday too, so maybe this is a good weekend meal too. I like to just get these spices, toast it up just a little bit. You don't want them to burn, you just want them to go a tiny little bit, mix it in there. I can already smell all those flavors. It's the cinnamon and clove for me, and a little bit of cumin smell. We're just gonna cover this meat with some beef broth. I have a version of this mix that you can use beef bouillon powder, and then you would just cover it with water. Now I might need another beef broth, or I might just add some water. So just get things sloshed around a little bit. Make sure everything's covered. Where are those bay leaves? There we go. Everybody in the party. Those chilies are gonna soften and create a nice sauce. Healthy pinch of salt. That beef broth is pretty salty and I salted the meat, but my spice mixture did not have any salt in it. So just gonna add just a little bit of salt. Anytime you're seasoning, season in layers. Season your first step, season your second step, season your third step. So just a little at a time. Helps you develop flavor. Make sure everything's seasoned properly, and then you can always finish at the end with a little more salt if it needs it. All right, just for a good seal, I usually tidy up the top. Now that was all the work and effort. It probably took me just a few minutes while I clean up the rest of this. I'm gonna set it, let it rip, put the pressure on, and this will be ready in about an hour. Remember, if I was using a slow cooker or a Dutch oven, this could take up to 8 hours, if not a little bit more, for juicy, shreddable, tender meat. One of the biggest hurdles to traditional birria is the time it takes to make it. So this helps eliminate a lot of that time. When it comes to these cooker, there's always a grand reveal, so I've been building up the anticipation. What a delightful noise, too. I'm nervous, I don't know why I'm nervous. Whoa, look at that! Now when it comes to birria, there's a few more steps we need to do. There's a good fat layer on the top, all that fat from the beef that's rendered out. I'm just gonna skim as much of that off the top as I can. In traditional birria, you're using this to cook through your tortillas, but I'm just skimming off some of this fat to start off with. If you're making this ahead of time, you can refrigerate this and that fat layer will solidify. Then you can just get it off with a spoon, heat it up, and use that. If you get a little bit of the liquid, that's totally fine. Just looking for mainly that layer on top. But I see all those spices and chili. It's a great, nice dark color. And now for that beef. It is falling apart, juicy, tender. It's just mushing when I squeeze it with the tongs. You can either transfer your meat into a bowl, shred it up, put it back in your liquid, keep it on the side with a little bit of the juice on it, and then you can save the juice on the side as your consommé, your broth that you dip your tacos into. So that's why I love birria. There's so many elements and components to it. There's the fat layer that you toast your tortillas in. There's the broth that you dip them in. There's the nice, tender, juicy beef that you'll shred up. These shreds of beef look so nice. Now when it comes to the Instant Pot, to make things a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, you can dice up that meat a little bit more. That'll get it extra tender, extra juicy, but this is perfect. I just have a fork, so I might as well just taste a little bit of it. This smells incredible. I can smell those spices. I see the chilies in there. Look at all those chilies. Okay. Where'd my good piece go? They're all good pieces, but I wanted this bite. This is also when we need to taste for salt. So that's why I'm gonna give it a little taste first. I can make a super cut of me just chewing, waiting to talk again. Every time it gets me. Y'all, that's so good. That's so good. I like a little bit more saltiness in that broth, so I'm just gonna add just a little bit more. It's not super spicy. I used mostly mild chili, so it has just a little heat. So good. But that is the easiest way, quickest method to get birria on the table, extra fast. Shred it up, use that broth on the side, toast some tortillas in that fat, add cheese if you want, extra delicious. Simple, about an hour birria, unfathomable. This same method you can do the long slow cook way. Get your slow cooker out, add your broth, add your beef, saute that, brown it up, add it into your slow cooker with a spice jar that we made, cover it with some broth, and you'll be in business. You can also do it in a Dutch oven. There's so many ways you can use this, but truly that spice jar is a great shortcut. Now it's taco time, and not a lot of time.